Shabbat shalom, everybody.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
We thank Yahuah the Father for His goodness, kindness, and mercy on the day, allowing us to come out, and participate, gather with our family on another set apart Shabbat. We thank Him for that. And at this time, Mishpachah, we're going to go ahead and get our services started. We're going to ask our Zarzakan, Gabar Yahu. Matter of fact, come up here and blow Zarzakan.
Okay.
Because this is something I want to do, because most of our viewing audience, they're familiar with my faith, they're familiar with our senior Moreh Kasadaba. But this is our Zarzakan. He's our chief elder here, and most of y'all hear us mention his name at times, but you've never seen him. So this is your opportunity to see him, our chief elder here, Gabar Yahu, Yashra'al. Let's give him a hand as he brings us in with the blow of our Shabbat.
Sorry. It's the East.
Today's lesson, we're going to continue a lesson we started about a month ago. And I ask that our viewing audience to forgive me, because I started a lesson, I did introduction to the wilderness. And I ended up stopping that, going into another teaching, the strangers. But I want to go back and start the wilderness lesson, pick up where we left off. So we are going to do that. I did the introduction, but we're going to go back and just go into the lesson itself. And today we will start with part 1. So I might have to brush up on a few scriptures and stuff that we went over in the introduction to bring it back up to where we can start. But anyway, we're going to go into that. Hallelujah. First of all, what we should take notice of is the book of Numbers, or Midbar, means wilderness. And I often tell people, if you want to understand what the Torah is about, if you understand the Hebrew names of the first 5 books, or the Torah, the very first verse in each one of those books will let you know what that particular book portion of the Torah is about. So if we go back to what we call, Genesis? Does anybody know the Hebrew word for Genesis? Bereshit. So if we go back to Genesis or Bereshit 1 and 1, can somebody get that for me? You got it?
Just read the first verse.
Yeah, we're going to ask the bar, Yahuah, read Bereshit or Genesis 1 and 1.
Bereshit or Genesis 1 and 1. In the beginning, Yahuah created the heaven and the earth.
Okay then, so Bereshit or Genesis, it just means beginnings. So if we go to Exodus, and we know the word is Shemot in Hebrew, and we know when we break down the word Shemot, we get the root word Shem. And that's very important. And we know Shem in Hebrew is names. So we're going to ask Zazakan, our chief elder, if he would get Shemot 1 and 1.
Shemot, or Exodus 1 verse 1. Now these are the names of the children of Yashra'al.
So, and these are the names of the children of Yashra'al. So you should see a common theme with this going on. You see each word and its meaning is stated and given in the very first verse of each portion of the Torah. So when we go to, let's just go to Numbers, because that's where we're going to be coming from. So the word Numbers in English, in Hebrew, it is Bar Midbar, which means wilderness. So when we go to, we'll ask Azar the Can to get Numbers 1 and 1 again, or Numbers 1 and 1.
Right. Bamidbar, or Numbers 1 verse 1. And Yahuah spake unto Moshe in the wilderness of Sinai.
And Yahuah spoke to who? Moshe in the wilderness. So that's very important. So when we look at this, the wilderness, we have to understand something. It has already been spoken to us that there's what? Nothing new under the sun. That which has been what? Shall be, and that which shall be has already been. So what he's telling us, we can take from the past, what was written in the past, and learn and understand what's going to take place in our future. So in order to understand what's going to take place and prepare us for the future, guess what we have to do? Go back and look at what was written and stated in the past. Because all prophecy is dual, or we deal with the term duality. That sometimes we read about prophecies in the scripture. Yes, those things, a lot of them have already happened, but he's like, they're going to happen again. And we're going to look at some of these things. So we're going to ask Zazakan, Gabar Yahuah, if he would get Exodus or Shemot 15 and 1. And this is going to prove what we just said about things will happen again. Shemot or Exodus 15 and 1.
Shemot, or Exodus 15 verse 1. Then sang Moshe and the children of Yashra'al this song unto Yahuah, and spake, saying, I will sing unto Yahuah, for he hath triumphed.
Okay, then it said, then sang Moses. It said, then sang Moses, which at that time would have been speaking of that. Then it gives you a future. It said, I what? Will sing. Will let you know this will be a future sing. Okay, then. Let's get Zazakan, Tehillim of Psalms 137, verse 1 through 4. Psalms 137, verse 1 through 4.
Tehillim, or Psalms 137 verse 1. By the rivers of Babylon sat down, yea, we wept when we remembered Zion. We hanged our harps upon the willows in the midst thereof. For there they sat, for there they that carried us away captive required of us a song. And they that wasted us required of us mirth, saying, sing us one of the songs of Zion.
Okay then. It said they that what carried us away required of us is what?
Song.
And a song. They said, how shall we what? Sing Yahuah's song in where? A strange land. Now, all of this is to set up for a future event. What has happened shall be. Now let's go over to Deuteronomy, the 30th chapter. We're going to ask our brother Slomo, or brother Solomon, if he would get that for us. Deuteronomy, the 30th chapter. We're going to start at the first verse.
Deuteronomy 30:1. It shall come to pass, when all these things are come upon thee, the blessings and the curse, which I have set before thee, and thou shalt call them to mind among all the nations, whither Yahuah thy Elohim have driven thee.
And you should call them to mind where?
All the nations.
All the nations.
And shall return unto Yahuah thy Elohim.
And shall return to Yahuah thy Elohim. Now, what did the children of Israel say in Psalms when they were required to sing a song by their captives? They were required a song to sing. What did they say? How shall we sing where?
Strange land.
In a strange land. Moving forward from coming out of Mizraim, we see that was a pattern of disobedience with who? The children of Israel. And so when you read about the history of the children of Israel, where does most of their history take place? In captivity. Okay, then. In captivity. That's very important. So he said, read that first verse again, Russell.
And it shall come to pass.
A little louder too.
And it shall come to pass, when all these things are come upon thee, the blessings and the curse, which I have set before thee, and thou shalt call them to mind among all the nations, whither Yahuah thy Elohim hath driven thee, and thou shalt return unto Yahuah thy Elohim, and shalt obey his voice, according to all that I command thee this day, thou and thy children, with all thine heart and with all thy soul. Then that Yahuah thy Elohim return thy captivity,
Yahuah return thy captivity,
and have compassion on thee,
will have compassion on thee,
and will return and gather thee from all the nations, whither Yahuah thy Elohim hath scattered thee.
and will return and gather you from where? All the nations where who? Yahuah thy Elohim has scattered. Not with the European, not with the white man has scattered. He said, well, Yahuah thy Elohim has scattered. Because how do we know it's Yahuah? What's our precept for that? Or actually not a precept, but what verse confirms in the prophet that it was Yahuah doing it? When we went and read about Hosea, when he was commanded to marry who? Gomer, the harlot. And he had a son, or they named what? Jezreel. And what was his name, Jezreel? For it said Yahuah was scattered, or Yahuah was sold. But who or what was Yahuah going to scatter or sow? Israel. He didn't say the Portuguese, the British, the Russian czars or whoever were going to scatter them. He said he was going to do it. So, go ahead and continue reading, bro.
That then Yahuah thy Elohim will turn thy captivity and have compassion upon thee, and will turn and gather thee from all the nations, whither Yahuah thy Elohim hath scattered thee. If any of thine be driven out unto the outmost parts of heaven, from thence will Yahuah thy Elohim gather thee, and from thence will he fetch thee. And Yahuah thy Elohim will bring thee into the land which thy father possessed, and thou shalt possess it. And he will do thee good and multiply thee above thy fathers. And Yahuah thy Elohim will circumcise thine heart. And the heart
Yahuah
of
thy
thy
Elohim will do what?
Circumcise thine heart.
Circumcise thine heart. You ever notice he went straight to circumcise their heart? He didn't say anything about their reproductive organs or anything. Why would he be bringing them out of captivity and gathering them? But his focus is on what? Their heart. Why is that?
Because you don't ever want them to have to go back into captivity again.
Right, because he never what? Huh?
Intended for them to go to captivity.
Well, he never intended for them to go captivity, but what I'm getting at, he never had Israel's heart. Remember, he said he's going to bring them into the what? The wilderness, and he's going to what? Try them and test them and prove them what? Right, to see if he has their heart. He has never had his people's heart. No matter how much he did for them, no matter how many miracles he worked, no matter how many barakeems he bestowed upon them, he never had the heart of his own bride. Say that again, Courtney. Israel had a stony heart. Thank you so much. Good answer. And that's the thing. Israel always had a stony heart. And it's crazy that someone would do all of this, prove all of his love. We often refer back to Ezekiel, the 16th chapter. And we always talk about the condition that he found Israel in, and how he chose her when she was filthy and nasty as a dog. He chose her, gave her beauty, cleaned her up, gave her beauty, and just made her renowned amongst the nation, made her the beauty of everybody that looked on her wanted her. And he did this for her, and she never felt the same way about him. But you know one thing we said about Yahuah? His love has never changed for his people. It has, even in all the idolatry and everything, Israel has always been that apple of his eye. And so when you read this book, you're reading your story, you're reading the unconditional love that a husband has for his idolatrous and adulterous wife. That he will keep accepting her time after time after time after time after time again. Until she finally what? Decides to submit and subject herself to her husband. And so, we see when we look at this story, we see Moshe talking about singing and singing again, but they can't sing in a strange land. So, what has to happen, he has to what? Bring them out of a strange land. Now, most people say that when he said he was going to send them back into Egypt, he was not talking about America and other places. But I beg to differ. Because when he brought them out of Mizraim, I want to say it's in Shemot, the 15th chapter, I believe. Let me see. Shemot 15. It's either 15 when we're reading. I think it's this chapter. I should have wrote my verse down. When he talks about how when he brought them out of Israel, he probably said they would never go back or see it, return again. Right. Is it this chapter?
I don't know what it is.
He said, and they spoke coming out of Israel, they looked back, he spoke to them, say they would never go back there again. So we know it could not have been talking about the Mizraim we came out of. So this Mizraim or this bondage would be somewhere else. That's why when we're reading in Deuteronomy 30 chapter what Shlomo just read, he said after the what? The blessings and the curses, what?
I was circumcised in heart.
Yeah, but he said the blessings and the curses. What blessings and curses were he talking about? Or was he talking about, speaking of? It was the one that he spoke over them in Deuteronomy 20 chapter. So, when we look at that, so if he brought them out of Mizraim, he brought them out of Mizraim or bondage to take them where?
To the land. Promised land.
Into the promised land, did he? Okay, then what had to happen before they go into the promised land? Did they come out of Mizraim and go straight into the promised land? That's right. They had to be cleansed. There had to be a whole lot to take place before they could just enter into the land. So when we come out of this captivity or this Egypt or this bondage, it's very important to understand the timeline. Are we coming out of this bondage going straight into the land?
No.
There has to be a period where? In the wilderness. There has to be a period in the wilderness. And the purpose of the wilderness is what? To try our hearts, right? In order to try our heart, what does he have to do first? What did he have to do for Mizraim? I'm trying to show you something here. What did he have to do to Mizraim in order to establish them as a nation in that? Did he not have to? When we go back to the story of Yosef when he went down into Egypt, and his brothers came unto him, am I right? Was his brother alone or were they in the company of someone else? Yeah. What other people were with him?
Strangers.
The strangers or the Egyptians were with him. Coach, he said he had other people with him, but he had to do what? He had to ask them to leave. He made them leave. So in other words, he had to reveal himself to his brothers face to face. He had to separate them from where? The nations. That's the same thing with Yahuah. He's bringing you out of Mizraim into the wilderness. That's what, but he has to separate you from the nation. He's going to reveal himself to who? His brothers. That's the whole purpose of the wilderness, because with others around you, what happened? Influence, or we would call it what? Distractions. He has to deal with you as Zor Zakan always says, pani pani. Or what? Face to face. He has to deal with you face to face. Y'all ever notice when I was reading those scriptures about the stranger? How you had one particular stranger who was allowed to do things that Israel did. But even at the same time, that stranger couldn't go into some places that Israel could go. There were still laws that would even deny that particular stranger or Garrett 1616 access, because they were never on Israel's what? Level. They were not the same. Go ahead, now.
Right. I don't know if this is the scripture you was talking about, but I did find a scripture that was talking about Egypt.
Okay, read it for us, so I can.
Yirmiyahu 42 and 18. For thus saith Yahuah of hosts, the Elohim of Yashra'al, as my anger and my fury have been poured forth upon the inhabitants of Jerusalem, so shall my fury be poured forth upon you, when you shall enter into Egypt, and you shall be in execration, and in astonishment, and a curse, and a reproach, and you shall see this place no more.
Exactly. So we know when we read that right there, that's perfect. When Yirmiyahu spoke this, they had been out of Mizraim a long time. So where is this place called Egypt that he's speaking of, it would not have been Mizraim. They never went back to Mizraim as captives.
That's right.
Never, ever, ever again in the history did they go back into Mizraim as captives.
Even in Deuteronomy 28, it said, you shall see this place, you know what I'm saying, you shall not see it again.
Exactly.
Right.
So when we look at that, we're looking at something that's going to be a future event. Something takes place with the nation of Yashra'al in future times where they're going to be where? Back in bondage. So we understand that the word Egypt comes from the Greek Egyptos, which only means bondage or double straight. And when you go to the word straight, it means stress. There were going to be two captivities that will be similar and compared to each other. There will be the most strenuous or stressful or most difficult captivity that the nation of Yashra'al would ever endure. One was under Mizraim, the children of Ham, and the other one would be in this captivity where they would be cast or spread into all nations. And this is why it's so important to understand. I had a talk with a couple of ladies last night, actually 3 ladies last night, and I was explaining to them our history, and I was telling them, you know, when you read what y'all call the Bible, we look at it as, in English we would call it the Hebrew Scripture, because that's what it is.
Right.
It's written for, to, and about the nation of Yashra'al, or the Israelites. That's why you see Israel from cover to cover. It's all about Israel. And when you're reading them, and you come across other nations, when it's talking about the Babylonians, the Egyptians, any other children of Ham, the Cushites, the Assyrians, the Moabites, and all these people, it's only speaking of the other nations, the Greeks and the Romans and all them, because Israel came in contact with them and ended up going into captivity under these nations. They were conquered by these nations. So it's giving you the history of Israel and what they endured, and how, you know, the whole background of when they were in captivity under these nations. That's why they're written of or in the Hebrew Scripture. But the focal point is Israel and how they were treated and their actions and all, and what got them and led them into those captivities. That's the only reason you hear about the other nations in the Hebrew Scriptures. So, when we see this, we should know that from Genesis to Revelation, when